If you had the option, P. Diner, to interview Meghan Markle, what would be the 3 things that you would like to ask?
I would ask her, girl, did you give birth to those children? Did you really birth those children?
Yeah.
That's what I
Show
would
me the
ask
birth
her.
certificate, okay?
Yeah, show us the birth certificate.
It's the first time in the history of the monarchy that this has happened. And therefore, we've all been asking, the doctor's name should be made public. You know that they put that outside with the easel, right? And then Harry, if we go by his narrative and spare, he says that Meghan Markle went to the hospital, the Portland hospital, and then she humped a ball, that she was put in the bathtub. She was given not 1, but 2 epidurals. I am a mom. I have had my child by using an epidural. Doctors will never put you in a bathtub if you have an epidural because you have a tube sometimes, you know. They can't be pulling you out of water can get in, all kinds of things can happen. And then Harry in his book says that within 2 hours of the child being born, they were back at Frogmore Cottage. Those are his words. Those are not my words. Those are his. And then if that is the case, that means that this woman with not 1, but 2 epidural, with a very difficult birth, geriatric, was literally cleaned up. The baby was smacked, wrapped, put in a van, and sent back because it takes almost an hour from Portland Hospital to go to Frogmore Cottage.
Yes.
How can this woman be allowed? That is a medical liability.
Every royal birth leaves a trail of facts. Names, doctors, records, signatures. When Prince George was born, 3 doctors stood behind the announcement. Charlotte and Louis, 2 each. The system was always clear, public, and impossible to question. Then came Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor in May 2019. And suddenly, something didn't add up.
All royal births from 1688 until 1936 were witnessed by the Home Secretary, and thereafter the Home Secretary's presence was deemed to be unnecessary because you had the royal obstetricians and you had unimpeachable witnesses to the birth of those children who would then sign off officially on the announcements. Every royal birth, with the exception of Archie's and Lilibet's, has been signed off by a host of royal doctors.
The palace easel revealed the time, weight, and hospital. But one detail was strangely missing: the doctor's name.
And another thing that I know that they do, if a royal lady who's about to give birth, there's 2 phone calls that the security team makes. 1 to the palace to inform Her Majesty that, you know, she's gone into labor. And 2, that to the security, the head of security, to secure the premises where they go. Harry claims that they didn't do any of that. That means that the Royal Police Protection Officers violated security protocol, which will be a first. So I had so many questions. I wrote to Parliament. I sent you the emails for a Freedom of Information Act request. I just wanted them to verify to me that the baby was born in Portland in the names of the doctors, which should be of public information because those children are included in the line of succession. You read what they sent to me. They said that they're not in the business of delivering babies, which is a very weird answer to give because Parliament is in charge of verifying that all royal children meet the legal requirements to be in the line of succession, and documents are sent to them.
For the first time in modern royal history, no physician was publicly attached to the birth. That wasn't a tiny oversight. It shattered a decades-old royal pattern. Normally, that doctor acted as an independent witness, someone the public could verify. Without that name, everything rested on one thing alone: the family's version of events. When reporters questioned the hospital, the response was cold and carefully polished, hiding behind patient confidentiality. No doctor spoke. No staff confirmed details. No independent voice stepped forward. Just 2 people telling the story. And the silence around it only made the mystery darker.
There's a big difference between privacy and secrecy. Now, royal births are supposed to be, the details have to be made public because they have to reassure the United Kingdom that they meet the legal requirements to be in the line of succession, right? And we know that the only living witness to Archie's birth is Prince Harry. Who else? We don't know anybody else.
Then, 2 years later, another royal birth arrived under even quieter circumstances. And the questions only grew louder.
The birth certificate for Lily looks nothing like the birth certificate for my son and others. It's definitely different. And even the copy that was released by TMZ said this is not like an official copy. So we have never seen the real birth certificate for Lily. We have not seen it. So I know from what I've seen, it's not legit. It's not, because I have one and it looks completely different.
Fascinating.
And no one, like, who's going to come out and say anything? Who? You know what I mean? So, like, she can get away with it. That's what I think has happened.
Archie's birth record was officially filed on May 17, 2019, just 11 days after his birth. At first, everything looked completely normal. The document listed Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, as the mother, with her occupation marked as Princess of the United Kingdom. Case closed, or at least that's what people thought.
And as we can see here, this is Santa Barbara County, and you see certificate of live birth, Santa Barbara Cottage, she was born, and this is completely where it says the Duke of Sussex. That's Harry's first name, and his last name is His Royal Highness, okay? Which we know is incorrect, right? This was issued on July 2nd, 2021. I want you to pay attention to this number right here. The 105-202, the 105-2021, 163-206. That number is incredibly important.
Less than a month later, the record was quietly changed. On June 5th, a new version appeared, and Meghan's personal names, Rachel Meghan, had vanished completely. Only the royal title remained. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. That tiny change caused huge attention fast. Newspapers immediately picked up on it, but the silence that followed was even stranger. No explanation, no public statement, nothing for over a year.
Now you're wondering, why does that number really matter, Paula? This is directly from the government's website, guys. And this is reviewing a birth certificate, birth area code, okay? And then it tells you what it is. It's the first three digits. You remember the 105 that you saw? Is the birth area code. It tells you in which state the child was born. We have seen that in Lilibet's birth certificate. It states that her number is 105. So surely that is California, right? It turns out that California is 104. It's right here. And Colorado is 105.
Then finally, Omid Scobie claimed online that the change was ordered by the palace, not requested by Meghan or Harry.
It was announced that Lilibet was born in Santa Barbara on June 4th, 2021. Suddenly, weird things started to happen because the obstetrician who helped deliver Lilibet shut her practice with little notice, telling patients she needs to focus on my own health and be with my family. Her name is Dr. Melissa Drake. And her husband happens to coincidentally own a fertility clinic. But she quit with given barely 10 days notice to patients, which is unheard of.
And the palace? Total silence again. Legally, changing a birth record isn't unusual at all. Corrections and updates happen all the time. But this situation felt different to many people because the change wasn't about a typo or paperwork mistake. A personal identity disappeared, leaving only a royal title behind.
I think she is a person who's done huge damage to the royal family, has been deeply, deeply inaccurate on many issues, and is of absolutely no value either to the royal family or society. But she just sucks from it. She takes from it and exploits it and profits from it.
And that raised one unsettling question. Why remove the person and leave only the position? Two official institutions, one birth document, and two completely different decisions made within weeks of each other. That didn't look simple or routine to many observers. It looked like tension behind the scenes. And that opens a bigger question. If officials couldn't stay consistent over something as basic as a name on a legal record, what else around these royal births may not have been as clear as it seemed? Then came Harry's version of events. In January 2023, Spare exploded onto shelves and instantly became the fastest-selling nonfiction book ever, with over 1.4 million copies sold in a single day.
I've spoken to doctors, nurses, many women who've given birth to children, and all of them say the same thing. Those photographs of Meghan and the way the baby bump performed are totally unexpected, and they're not aware of any baby, any pregnant woman who is genuinely pregnant having her bump perform the way Meghan's has performed.
Inside, Harry described Archie's birth in deeply personal detail, speaking as a father who says he was there through every moment. But his account felt very different from the picture Meghan had shared publicly 2 years earlier during her massive 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey. Meghan described her pregnancy as lonely, painful, and emotionally overwhelming. She spoke about feeling ignored inside the royal system and opened up about her mental health struggles during that time.
This preposterous pair sitting down, giving that interview, that awful interview to Oprah Winfrey, calling the royal family racists, false.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
She also revealed conversations about how dark her unborn child's skin tone might be, claims that shocked audiences around the world. Over 17 million viewers watched that interview live in America alone, and for years, it shaped how the public understood her pregnancy and life inside the royal family. Then Harry's memoir arrived, offering another layer to the story and raising even more questions about what was really happening behind palace doors. One pregnancy, two parents, but somehow two very different emotional stories. Then there was the palace version, cold, brief, and carefully controlled.
I was doing an interview to offer them a platform to tell their story about why they left. And that was my number one intention, was just clarity on why did you leave? And so some of the things that were revealed in that interview came as a surprise to me. And those surprises are now referred to as bombshells.
Buckingham Palace released only 32 words announcing Archie's birth. No doctor named, no major details. Barely anything beyond the time, weight, and confirmation Harry was present. That left 3 separate versions of the same moment. Harry's story came through a best-selling memoir written for millions. Meghan's came during a high-profile interview where she openly challenged the institution around her. And the palace statement? It revealed only the absolute minimum, crafted with extreme caution. When you compare all 3 accounts side by side, almost nothing fully matches except the date itself. The emotions, the atmosphere, even the experience changes depending on who's telling the story. That's what made the situation so fascinating to royal watchers. Every side seemed focused on protecting its own image rather than giving a complete picture.
She gave birth to them, and she has quite deliberately caused doubt, and she has created mischief, knowing that it would damage the royal family, which would show a level of spite and malice that is truly not only sick, but evil.
Veteran investigative biographer Tom Bauer has spent decades studying these kinds of royal tensions, and by 2026, he was once again digging into the cracks behind the public narrative. Because before 2019, royal births followed a far more predictable pattern. When Prince William was born in 1982, the hospital details were known in advance, the process looked transparent, and very few questions were left hanging in the air. Prince Harry's own birth in 1984 followed the usual royal pattern. So did George, Charlotte, and Louis years later. Hospitals were announced ahead of time, doctors were publicly named, and the process stayed consistent for generations. Even Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, who were born at Portland Hospital too, had full public details released in advance. Then Archie's arrival changed everything, quietly but completely.
All other royal babies in the line of succession have had their births signed off. Princess Eugenie, Princess Beatrice, Sarah York, Diana Wales, Catherine Wales, you name it. Everybody knows where the babies came from, at what time, with proof. The only 2 children that there is no proof for is Prince Archie Bunker and Princess Lily. You better hope that she's rarely entitled to what they claim she's entitled.
Before May 2019, reports strongly pointed toward a home birth at Frogmore Cottage. That idea had spread for months, and many believed the Sussexes would follow a private, midwife-led plan away from London cameras. But when the announcement finally came, the birth had already happened.
And then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures.
Suddenly, Portland Hospital was revealed as the location only after Archie was safely born there. No warning, no media waiting outside, no famous hospital steps photo like past royal births. The secrecy caught many royal reporters off guard because the usual playbook had disappeared almost overnight.
The doctor talks about both the children, and listen to what she says.
So you tell me to tell you something that maybe a dozen people actually know that's going to come out very soon. Okay. Meghan Markle, the reason why you watch her interviews and she just seems off, she's owned by a pharmaceutical company. The 2 children that she had, they're not hers. She didn't have them with Harry. And how her and Harry met is that she's a prostitute.
Then, 2 days later, Archie was introduced to the world, not outside a hospital, but inside Windsor Castle itself. The setting was elegant, controlled, and carefully staged for cameras. Every photo, every angle, every moment happened entirely on Harry and Meghan's terms, making the debut feel very different from anything royal watchers had seen before. The contrast with past royal births couldn't have been bigger. Prince George appeared on the hospital steps just hours after birth. Charlotte did the same, Louis too. Reporters waited outside in the rain, cold, and chaos for those quick first photos seen around the world the very same day. But Archie's debut was completely different. Instead of spontaneous press photos, the public got a carefully managed reveal inside Windsor Castle 2 days later. Every camera angle, every image, every second was tightly controlled. That balance between demanding privacy while also carefully choosing when and how to appear became one of the biggest talking points around Harry and Meghan. And the same pattern seemed to follow the birth of their daughter, Lilibet Diana, in June 2021.
I mean, obviously, when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby.
Born in California, Lilibet became the first senior British royal child born outside the UK in generations. Her name was announced with emotional wording, honoring both Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana. On the surface, it sounded like a peaceful olive branch during a time of heavy royal tension. But only days later, another controversy exploded. A BBC royal correspondent reported that Queen Elizabeth had allegedly not been properly consulted before the name Lilibet was publicly announced.
Let's not forget that when Prince Philip died and the Queen placed that envelope, remember that? It said Lilibet. And she said that she didn't want anybody else using that particular endearing name, that died with Prince Philip. And what did Meghan Markle do? Just think of the deviousness, the evil of this woman.
The story spread fast, instantly creating fresh questions behind palace walls and turning what looked like a touching tribute into another royal storm. The backlash came fast, and the Sussex team responded the very same day. According to their statement, Harry had spoken directly with Queen Elizabeth before the name was announced. They insisted she supported the decision, saying she was actually the first family member he called. The message was clear: they would never have used Lilibet without her blessing. But the dispute didn't end there. The Sussexes' lawyers reportedly challenged the BBC story as false. Yet the BBC refused to back down and still stands by its reporting today.
Because the Queen said nobody uses that name anymore around me, I do not want to hear it anymore, that died with my husband. What did Meghan and Harry do? They named their child Lilibet. And they lied to the Queen because they told the Queen the child would be named Lily. Hence the tweet from Prince William and from Kensington Palace saying, "We're delighted to announce the birth of Lily." Because that's the name that Palace, the Queen, and everybody around them were told that invisible child was going to be called.
That left the public stuck between two completely opposite versions of the same private conversation. Then, years later, the controversy exploded again. In early 2024, author Robert Hardman released a biography about King Charles III, and one reported quote immediately grabbed headlines. According to an unnamed palace source, the late Queen allegedly reacted by saying, "The only thing I own is my name, and now they've taken that."
It was the last violation to the Queen. The Queen felt violated. When somebody does something to you against your will, that is a form of violation in the worst possible way.
That single line sent shockwaves through royal watchers everywhere. Of course, the source was anonymous, and no one can fully verify what was said behind closed doors. But the deeper mystery never disappeared. The BBC never retracted its claims. Harry and Meghan never changed theirs. And with Queen Elizabeth no longer here to clarify the truth herself, the public was left with two conflicting stories, knowing only one could be completely accurate. Then, in 2026, Tom Bower's book Betrayal reignited the debate all over again as it stormed bestseller lists within days of release.
Sussexes only will talk to people who repeat their own narrative.
Yes.
And who they can control. So the idea that you could get the truth from the Sussexes is contradictory.
Tom Bower's approach has always been simple. Collect the statements, study the documents, and look for the moments where the stories stop matching up. He's used that same method on celebrities, billionaires, politicians, and even the royal family itself. Over the years, major figures have challenged him legally. Yet his reputation for digging through contradictions has only made his books more talked about.
I think that's the whole issue, that they were globally, and they are globally known, but because of the way they behaved in the last 4 or 5 years, and as the price of betrayal, they are now, their reputation and their status and their fortunes are crumbling.
So when Betrayal was released in 2026, people paid attention fast. The Sussex team answered with a short 49-word statement. But what stood out wasn't what the statement said. It was what it didn't say. No direct denial of specific claims. No disputed dates. No detailed corrections. Critics immediately noticed that absence, and according to many royal commentators, that pattern had appeared before. Questions about Archie's birth records, the unnamed doctor, the Lilibet naming controversy. Each time, attention seemed to shift toward the people asking the questions rather than the details themselves. That's why the debate kept growing online and in the media.
They said Mr. Bower's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy, in fact, depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life, language that speaks for itself.
Supporters of Harry and Meghan argued they were protecting their privacy from endless attacks. Critics argued important questions were still being avoided. And because so many responses stayed broad instead of highly specific, the speculation never fully disappeared. By that point, the public wasn't just following royal headlines anymore. They were tracking contradictions, timelines, and tiny details, trying to figure out which version of events truly matched the full picture. When critics of Tom Bower attacked his character instead of directly disproving his claims, many observers saw that as part of a larger pattern. By this point, 6 major questions had become impossible for royal watchers to ignore. First, past royal births publicly listed doctors on official palace announcements. Archie and Lilibet did not. Second, Archie's birth certificate was quietly amended within weeks, and no clear public explanation ever fully settled who requested the change. Third, the people closest to Archie's birth, Harry, Meghan, and the palace, all described the situation differently, while the attending doctor never appeared publicly at all.
Just remember, Harry and Meghan threatened to sue at the drop of a hat, and they have never tried to sue Tom Bower because they know what he writes is true.
Fourth, the hospital location stayed hidden until after the birth, breaking long-standing royal tradition. Fifth, the dispute over Queen Elizabeth's nickname, Lilibet, created 2 completely opposing stories. The BBC stood by its reporting. Harry and Meghan stood by theirs. Both versions could not fully be true at the same time. And sixth, whenever these controversies resurfaced, critics claimed responses often focused more on challenging the messenger than carefully dismantling every detail being questioned. What kept the debate alive was that these weren't just internet rumors or random gossip. The discussions came from public interviews, official records, legal statements, media reports, and palace announcements already available for the world to examine. That's why the mystery around these royal moments never fully faded, because every new detail seemed to create even more unanswered questions. The documents have always been out there for the public to see. Birth records, palace statements, interviews, court filings. The pieces are scattered everywhere. Yet the one thing that could clear up so many lingering questions still hasn't appeared. A clearly named doctor, a fully verified timeline, and direct answers tied to both. And to many royal observers, that silence has become part of the story itself. Now the situation is heating up again. Tom Bower's reporting continues to make waves, new royal books are on the horizon, and fresh court documents connected to ongoing legal battles are adding even more pressure behind the scenes. Every new release seems to uncover another layer. And the deeper people look, the more complicated the picture becomes. One thing is certain, this story is far from over. More claims, more documents, more royal tension, and even bigger questions could still be coming next. And when the next major twist drops, we'll break it all down piece by piece. So if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Which part of this royal mystery stands out most to you? And stay ready, because a sequel is coming soon. With even more intrigue, new revelations, and details the headlines still haven't fully uncovered.